students after class or whenever they find time, and call them in their office and ask them, hey, what's going on? I can see some tensions between this person and this person. Can you tell me what's going on? Do you think this is going to be a good approach?
That actually would be a perfect approach, because it's understood that most of the time a person is not going to be openly grabbed and molested in class. It has happened. One of the lawsuits I based maybe today on was based on exactly that kind of case, where the girl was dragged into the closet in the classroom and molested, and she would scream and cry for help. The teacher would mock her and tell her to stop teasing the boys, and the other classmates would laugh at her. When she skipped school one day, she called in sick, and the teacher laughed and mocked her in class and said, oh, I thought she got molested again. That kind of scenario is not very common in schools, because most perpetrators are not that blatant or that comfortable about their surroundings. But the concept is still there. Teachers know, even in situations that are much, much more subtle, where most of the message is shared not by specific words said out loud for the whole class to hear, or by actual physical contact, but normal words, heavy on the implication, specific looks, gestures, that kind of thing. A teacher can know what is happening in his or her classroom just by looking at how students interact with each other. So, like, to use myself as an example, in my experience, it was not at all uncommon for me to virtually shut down when one of my abusers walked into the room. Like, if he wasn't in my class and he was delivering a message or something for that teacher, I would become very quiet, and I would watch his every step, just in case he said or did anything while in there, because I hated the idea of being caught off guard. I hated the idea that he could do something or say something while I'm not looking, and I would be caught off guard and thus more helpless. Teachers, by nature, should be able to notice these things. When a normally happy, outgoing student who participates in class, does well, respects the teacher, gets along with everybody on at least a basic level, and so on, suddenly becomes quiet and withdrawn and is watching this person's every move. Or when the person is in your class and one day he's not there, and a normally quiet student becomes more outgoing and participates more, jokes around more. There's a complete difference, a complete change in the person's behavior between when the abuser is there versus not there. There's a difference in the person's behavior when the abuser is sitting halfway across the room minding his or her own business versus when he or she is right there in front of you, or when he or she says something to you. All in all, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect teachers to notice tension between students, especially when it's so obvious that other students in the class notice it. Literally the only thing you have to do is pay attention, and you'll notice it. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that in a situation where it never happens, there's never any problem between the two, and just one day there is, you should notice. That's not reasonable, not as a rule. But if it's an everyday thing, an everyday difference, an everyday issue between one and the other, you should notice, at least at some point or another. And you should keep one or both of them after class, one in the class, one in the hall, not together. And ask them what's going on. Ask detailed questions. Actually sound like you know what you're talking about, and take the person seriously, and then do something about it. Like I had one situation in 11th grade where one of my abusers thought it would be really funny to do a video clip as part of a school project for another class, and he and his friends all declared their profound love for me, which, since I love you was a major trigger word for me because it was one of my abusers' many more preferred phrases, I got really upset, really angry. I should point out this video clip was played in first period. It was a fourth period project. I got really upset, really angry, and threatened to kill them if I caught them after the bell rang. Naturally, I didn't mean it. I had no intention of actually hurting or killing either of them. More likely, I would have, ripped them up and down in the hallway. But the teacher did not hear this, but she heard the tension and the murmuring that went throughout the classroom almost immediately after. She heard the after effect. She kept me after class to talk about it, and I was particularly appreciative of her actually noticing this time around and doing something about it and treating it like an actual issue. Immediately after we left the classroom, she and I went to the counselor's office where we talked, and then she had to go back to the classroom because it was her planning period and she had a lot of work to do. And the counselor and I went to the assistant principal's office, and it just so happened that the SRO was walking by at that time because the SRO and the assistant principal were good friends. They spent a lot of free time talking. And the SRO, the assistant principal, the counselor, and I all talked about it. And when I was released to go back to class, the classmate in question was called in to meet with them. And I was told afterwards that he was given an ultimatum. He could either cut that clip off the video and not show it during fourth period, or he could not show the video at all, or he could hit stop right before that video, right before that clip arrived. No matter what his message was, he was not to show that clip during fourth period. And he and everybody else in this group had to apologize to me in class for doing that clip. Well, they did make the edit. Unfortunately, the sexual harassment continued throughout the next, all through the next year as well, all 4 years of high school. But that particular situation, I can't fault the teacher for, because she noticed a bit late, but she noticed, she took action, it was effective, and it had the desired result. And to boot, two out of the three group members became friends of mine that year, and the main abuser became a friend of mine halfway through the next year when his best friend dropped out of school. So that's at least one happy ending to it all.
Yeah, but this shouldn't happen. It looks like the school doesn't have the kind of organization they should have to protect the students, because I think this is part of their job. They should do something about it. They should stop the whole process, because it's going around and going around, and this shouldn't be the case. And there must be something done about it, because, as you said, some teachers even get involved in this kind of abuse, and they watch what is going on, and they don't want to hurt the feelings of a football player or somebody who is successful and who has a future, while the victim doesn't have any future, and she or he should be left to be treated like this. And I don't think this is the right thing. I don't know, and I think it should be done something about it, about the victims, because I think they feel who is the weak person there, and the weak person usually, they kill their self-esteem, and they cannot be one of them. They cannot move further in their life, and they just stay and afraid for their life. They fear every minute of the day, and this is not, I don't know what to say. What's your thoughts about that?
I think the word you're looking for is convoluted. It's twisted logic. And it is. There is too much of an emphasis on the perpetrator's future and not enough of an interest on the victim's future. Or what we should be doing within our schools is to treat both the victim and the perpetrator as people with an equal or virtually equal chance at life, and treat the offense as an offense that is offensive regardless of who commits it and who is victimized by it. And you're right, my high school did not have any sense of structure or organization in how it handled sexual abuse when I was there. Now, they have made some progress over the last decade or so, and I hope to see them make more progress in the near future. They're interested. That's a major improvement. They are actually openly interested in taking action now and doing what's necessary to make the schools safer for all students, not just safer in terms of weapons and drugs, as is the concern with most schools these days, but actually safer between students as well, with or without weapons, with or without physical fights. But at the time, there was no real sense of urgency, no real sense of organization. And no, they did not take it seriously. Not really. I had one principal in 9th grade who took action the first time he saw it. He retired that summer, so it's leading to the next 3 years. And basically, I think he's the only adult in all 4 years who took action, effective action, the first time he encountered it. Everyone else, the others who took effective action, saw it countless times before that and did nothing until a teacher brought it to their attention. And in the case of the two teachers in question, neither one of them noticed until near the end of the year, even though it had been going on in his or her class all year long. I think this is the problem in schools, really worldwide. Not all schools, naturally. There are some schools that are very good schools. They actually care about their students' well-being. They don't just say they care after there's a lawsuit. They actually do care. They do take action. But unfortunately, not very many. According to one set of statistics I saw, if I remember correctly, an estimated 0.5% of schools believe that or say that peer sexual abuse is a problem on their campuses. 0.5%. Or at least that it's a regular problem. On the other hand, 77 to 90% of students have been bullied. 48% of teens are victims of peer sexual abuse. 25% are victims of peer sexual abuse on a daily basis. And only about 10% of students, this is 10% from elementary school all the way up through college, only 10% of students will report their abuse to teachers and administrators, because only about 10% of students trust the staff to take decisive and effective action against it. So while about 0.5% of schools believe it's a regular issue, only about 10% of students believe that it will be taken care of, I should say. So I'd say that's a major break in communication there, not based so much on verbal communication between the students and the adults, or staff members in the case of colleges, but between what students see and hear and experience versus what the educators and administrators pay attention to, notice, and recognize.
Do you think if there are harsher punishments to students who do crimes like this, because I think this is a crime because you crush somebody practically, you rob them from all their self-esteem